right, well, hello, welcome. This is our 2025 middle school debate coaching clinic number one. And here we're just going to get kind of an overview of what we've got, kind of some rundown of some resources, some ways for you to get started introducing the game to your students. But the first thing I want to do before we get lost in the weeds is I want to open in prayer. And the prayer that I'm going to use here is one that we use at St. James. It's a prayer of Saint Columba of Iona. Now, Saint Columba of Iona is like the patron of our speech and debate team. He's got a fascinating backstory. He was an Irish monk in the early Middle Ages. He's a patron saint of poets. He argued for greater use of the Psalms in personal prayer and like even increased like copies of it, which was very expensive. His monastery making other copies of the Psalms for use in prayer. He was a person that cared deeply about words, and so as a patron of our program. And we're going to begin with this. We'll begin in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord, grant us that love which can never die, which will enkindle our lamps, but not extinguish them, so that they may shine in us and bring light to others. Most dear Savior, enkindle our lamps, that they may shine forever in your temple. May we receive unquenchable light from you, so that our darkness will be illuminated and the darkness of the world will be made less. Amen. In the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so first I want to do by way of a little introduction so you get to know a little bit who I am and what I'm coming to here. My name is Joe Wahlberg. This is my 16th year, starting year 16 at St. James Academy, mostly as a social studies teacher. This is my 5th year as the director of speech and debate. I'm a member of St. Joseph's Parish in Shawnee, which I firmly believe is the best parish in the Archdiocese. Besides being a teacher, my wife and I own a company called Kansas Tees. We're a custom t-shirt shop. We don't do like retail or anything, but if your fan club wants to get shirts, let me know. We do kind of contract printing. But my favorite thing is that I'm a husband and father to a pretty awesome family. This little glimpse of my summer here. I started out the summer going down to scout camp with my son, spending 10 very sweaty days. Actually, we got rained on hard while we were there the first part of the summer. Got back, we went to the Speech and Debate National Tournament, which is the fun-looking kids in the bottom right corner of the screen there. One's holding a foam rubber piece of corn because Nationals was in Des Moines. And then I got back, spent a few nights in my own bed, and then we took off for a family vacation. We went to Wisconsin, spent a little time in Milwaukee, south of there where my wife grew up, and then we drove up to the Dells, but not before stopping in the National Mustard Museum, which I went to because I like mustard, but I really like just people getting nerdy, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to talk about debate for a second overall, because people come into this as teachers in middle school with all kinds of different backgrounds and perspectives, and I just kind of want to set the stage to say that debate is awesome. Debate was the game that formed me as a young person in high school. Which for good and for bad, I don't think you should totally blame debate for the way I turned out. But it teaches these really awesome things. It teaches people how to do really complicated research and then yet to defend it with public speaking. It teaches people how to consider seriously somebody else's point of view, an opposite point of view, because you have to engage in the debate with your opponent in the room. You have to sit there and take them seriously in a world that doesn't do civil discourse very well. It also teaches kids how to own an idea, how to stick with something even when other people are coming at you, to stick with it, but also how to self-advocate, how to stick up for yourself and for your ideas in the round. And of course, the enduring piece is that it teaches you to do really hard things, because debate is super hard, and deal with real world feedback. Because I tell my debaters when they come out of rounds that sometimes people are just learning the game. They're like, oh, we clobbered that other team, or oh, we got hosed, and like it's whatever. You're trying to deal with real world feedback, and in every round of debate, half of those people just lost. Like it's kind of the way it goes. And I love that for what debate can offer. But also I need to, reiterate, debate is hard, and a lot of people don't come into it. They expect that it's going to go easy. They've, done the classroom debates and stuff, and I'm a teacher. I know how classroom debates work. Everybody wins, right? But this is a competitive activity, and it's hard to do, and it's hard for kids to go stand up there and stick up with this, particularly when they're learning the game. It's also sometimes hard for teachers to teach. I'm going to do everything I can to make that not so hard for teachers to teach. And it's often not what either person, student or teacher, thought it was going to be, but it is awesome and it's worth doing. And I'm excited that you're interested in it. So I'm going to talk about kind of what is debate overall. So debate is a academic competition, and it is a competition that where we will pick winners and losers. We'll try to make it so even losers have a positive experience with it because there's even a lot to be gained from losing. But like I said, half the people are going to win that round one. But it's a two-person debate. So there'll be two kids from one school facing two kids from another school, and they are a team, the two of them on each side facing another team. People that do have debate experience in Kansas are often familiar with policy debate. It's kind of the king of debate events around Kansas. This is somewhat similar to that. In fact, it's a two-on-two debate, but public forum is a little lower threshold to entry, some shorter speeches, kind of less research onto it, and then the questioning periods are a little more cooperative. So if you have been around debate, you might know policy debate. This kind of rhymes with it. It's not quite the same, but now if you're familiar with debate, you might know what debate in the movies looks like. And there was a movie a few years ago called The Great Debaters, and it's this semi-historical piece of movie reality, whatever, about some debate teams. And I love the way that they depict debate in these rounds. Now, this is somewhat time period, but also they go and there's people up on stage and there's hundreds of people out in the audience. Or if you've watched TV, they try to show a debate. There's in auditoriums and, very interested people sitting in theater seats to follow every word along with it. And debate looks very dramatic in the movies. And we often find that people come into our programs thinking this is what they're going to get. When in reality, academic debate looks a lot more simple. It happens in classrooms, and honestly, mostly empty classrooms, where it's two kids from one school sitting awkwardly at school desks versus two kids from another school sitting awkwardly at school desks. And maybe the only other people in the room, there might be one judge or perhaps a panel of three judges, but there's not really an audience, or the audience is one person. Now, at our tournament, our judges are going to be St. James Academy high school students. They will be either members of our speech and debate team or National Honor Society, or students that are just interested in coming in and being judges. Some of them with a variety of debate experience, but there won't really be an audience, which is sometimes a relief to students who aren't really good with public speaking because it's not really all that public. And it's sometimes a little more intimidating because you don't have the insulation of crowds. It's just one other person in the room besides the couple of kids debating. And oftentimes the podium is just another desk. There's not anyway. So debate in real life looks a lot more intimate, honestly, and a lot more vulnerable than what you see up on big stages. Okay, we do a style of debate here at this tournament called public forum debate. Each kid is going to speak twice, which means over the course of a round of debate, there's going to be 8 speeches. Each kid will get a chance to build an argument, and another to kind of strengthen it or clarify it there. Some of the speeches are really tightly scripted, and some of them are kind of prepared as you go. There's some things you prepare for, and some that's fairly extemporaneous on it. There are 3 questioning periods, and I'll walk through what those are. And they are, the way that competitive debate works is a lot of compiling evidence. And we're still kind of getting together evidence packages. Some of the briefs companies that we use are a little slow to getting me, but I'm starting to get them. We'll get there. But you compile evidence, and a lot of debate just looks like reading off a sheet of paper. And because you've done your work in ahead of time that you know what you're going to get to. And it's a kind of an arms race of evidence where you're just reading quotes from authors, and then you try to put warrants and explanations for what they're saying and how they connect together onto it. So it's a little more quote heavy than, say, like a research paper that the students might be used to writing from there. And the analysis is done in short little bursts between the evidence on it. So we have, like I said, 8 speeches. The first speeches are the constructives, and these are totally prepared speeches. They're 4-minute or 3-minute speeches that are totally scripted. You're just reading off the piece of paper. Sometimes I put the kid that's a little nervous to think on the fly in that first spot because it is totally scripted. The trade-off is they got to be the first speaker in the round, but the other side is that everything is totally pre-planned for them, and you'll kind of figure out how that goes. And then the opposite side will have one kid that comes up, and he or she will read their 3.5 or 4-minute prepared speech. Then the two of them will come back to the front of the room and ask each other questions. This is a brief period known as crossfire. Which is a really aggressive sounding term for just questioning. And I really like this because it's cooperative. The two debaters have to speak to each other and say, okay, may I ask the first question? Or would you like to have the first question? And they, puts a question, and the kid answers it and say, okay, now my question is blah, 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 blah. And the other kid answers that question. That's kind of how the crossfire process works back and forth. Then those two kids sit down, and the next kid gets up and gives his or her what's known as the rebuttal speech. Now, this one is semi-prepared, but it's there to go address what the opponent has just said. So if I'm looking at this format that I've got up on the screen, Team A, Speaker One, is the affirmative position. They're going to go say what is their case of why the topic should be affirmed, or the pro team, or the yes team. When debate, we call it the affirmative team because they're going to affirm this resolution. They have a totally prepared speech. The team B in our scenario here is the negative team. The negative team is going to say why you should not vote for the resolution, why you should negate the resolution. It's the con team, or the no team is the neg team. And then Team A, the speaker two, is another AF speech, another affirmative speech. And they're going to try to answer what the neg said. And the neg will have a rebuttal speech where they try to answer what the AF said. So far, each team has made their position and answered their opponent's position. Then there's another round of crossfire. Those two kids that gave the rebuttals will go and ask each other questions, 2-minute period. May I have the first question? Yes. Then, okay, here's my question, so and so. And then they trade back and forth. It's 2-minute period. 2 minutes is both really not very long and also agonizingly long, depending on the kiddo. Then then you get into summaries. This is the first two speakers that spoke get 2 rounds of summaries where they go defend the position that their side has said. They trade off. And then there's a period of questioning known as grand crossfire, where all 4 kids stand at their place, or sometimes they just sit at their place. There's not really a format for that, but all 4 kids ask and answer each other's questions at the same time. This is where, as a debate coach, I love it because I get to see the most level of cooperation, the most intricate level of deep thinking, and people that are now fairly long into the round and understanding what the other person's going to say. I also, it's the dangerous ones where kids get a little snippy because they're getting tired and they've been in the round for a little bit. So you really get to see the finesse of a debater during grand crossfire, where they all 4 get to speak and talk at the same time. And the last 2 speeches are pretty short. They're sometimes called the last shot, or the final focus. It's often known as that, which is the thing that you're trying to leave your opponent with. I'll put these speech times up in a packet that I'll send out to everybody, so you don't. If you're trying to copy it off the screen, we'll get it from there. But that's kind of the format of the round. You'll see that this thing doesn't last really long. A whole round of debate is done in under an hour. There's also some times where students get to kind of prepare and work with each other, some preparation time, about 5 minutes for each team to get that. But if a round moves efficiently, this is kind of a brisk little round of debate. We will do 3 rounds of our tournament. Each team will get to go affirmative once and negative once. And then round 3, we will leave it up to the debaters to decide. They can flip a coin and just see who wants to go AF and who wants to go neg. So that's kind of the format of our debate. So I mentioned earlier that competitive debate is an arms race of evidence. So here's what we're going to do. I will pre-write a few affirmative speeches and a few negative speeches. That is, your debaters can choose what they like. You also have total permission to write your own. There's actually a lot of resources on this particular topic because it's one that high school debaters were using in the fall of 2022. So Public Forum changes resolution every couple of months. And this is one that was used in fall of 22. And so you can find a fair amount of stuff on the internet where debaters were going and competing and researching on this. But I'm going to give you a set of briefs. So we work with a couple of briefs companies. One is called West Coast Publishing, and they're like professional evidence companies. They go and scour all of these sources and then put them together and here's a bunch of things you can use in debate. West Coast gives us permission to go share these briefs with all of our member schools. You're not really a member school, but that's kind of how I explain it. they give us permission, which they don't usually do, but we have kind of an agreement with West Coast. And I'm working with a couple other debate companies to get their briefs as well. Um, and yeah, so like I said, we'll write a couple of pro cases and a couple of con cases, a couple of AFs and negs are also called. And like I said, you're welcome to find additional evidence. There's probably enough to work with here. So if you want to like take the research load off of your plate and off your kids' plates, you're welcome to. I'm giving you quite enough, but I'm not saying that this is the, fence of the yard you have to play in. You're welcome to find evidence as you like. Okay, so how do debate speeches work? They're made up of stringing together evidence and typically in an outline or a semi-outline format. Um, like all argumentation, they use a claim, an evidence, and a warrant approach, although some of that gets kind of conflated down in debates. I put an example up on the screen of one that we used from last year. Our topic was about banning single-use plastics. And then we go through and, list a piece in there, like, and I'll even highlight it out, like these are things that are the words of a debater, which we're reading out loud. Then there's other parts that are like, these are words of the author, which we are reading out loud. The yeah, because authors don't write for competitive debate, they're often really wordy, and so debaters learn to like keep the whole thing together for context, but you're only reading certain lines out of it. And this will make more sense when you get to see on it. But well, like I said, these are the pre-written speeches, and the other ones are kind of assembled as you go. And there are times, and I'll say this as a longtime debater, you get into rounds sometimes, you're like, oh man, the other team did something I totally didn't expect, and I don't have a lot of evidence on it. Well, guess what? Using your noodle is also allowed, and you're allowed to make analytical arguments that are logical, even if you don't have a lot of evidence with them. I mean, debate theory would say that evidenced arguments are better than non-evidenced arguments, but debate, kids are real people and they're allowed to use their logic. Like that's considered fair. Before I move on this topic, I want to talk for a second about what debate is for. Because I'm going to jump back here. Some of this stuff looks like when you start seeing cases of just blocks of evidence, it won't sound real analytical at first because a lot of the analysis is done kind of beforehand. And sometimes people are like, man, this just isn't what I expected. What's debate for? I thought it was a public speaking event, or I thought it was a lot of like logic and analysis. And there is that. I mean, it's absolutely that, but it doesn't always feel like it in the moment. And when you hang around competitive debate, after a while, it gets like, people speak really fast because it's a timed game and they try to get as much information as they can in a time period faster than their opponents can react to it. And you hear a lot of people say like, man, what's debate even for? This doesn't feel like what I thought it was going to be. And to that, I say like, what's basketball for? Or what's football for? And I put pictures of my kids' teams up here because a bunch of cute kids doing this, right? But like, what's basketball for? Yeah, it's exercise, and yes, it's cardiac activity that goes and raises your, aerobic oxygen in the blood flow, and yes, it's team building. But you know what it is? It's just fun, and it's competition, and it builds character. And debate's the same way. Like debate is just fun competition, and don't oversell it as like this is an analytical activity which is there to expand your brain. No, it's there to go have fun and go compete in. Okay, so I want to talk for a second about the AF and neg positions in this debate. And this would be kind of like, well, okay, our topic. Our topic is what's known as a resolution. A resolution is a sentence which like assumes the argument is proven, right? And this is the topic for our debate. What's your debate topic? Resolved. The United States federal government should substantially increase its investment in high-speed rail. The affirmative team is going to affirm this resolution. They are the pro side. They are for high-speed rail. The negative team is the con side. They want to negate the resolution. It's not that they're negative people. It's they're arguing the resolution should be negated, that something about this sentence is wrong, whether the United States federal government shouldn't increase investment in high-speed rail, or it should increase investment in other areas, or like this is a perfectly acceptable thing for state governments or for private companies. A negative side doesn't have to be like wholesale against it. There could be like some reason why this is not a good sentence as it's written. Okay. An affirmative is going to defend every word in it. A negative team is going to say, actually, there's some problem here why we can't do it. But I'm going to start with the affirmative side for it. A team affirming this resolution might make a few contentions, might make a few arguments about why the why the sentence is correct, why they are resolved in this way. I don't know if you've like seen transportation infrastructure lately, but it appears to be failing. We took a train trip over spring break. We went to Chicago, and if you spend any time on Amtrak, you really get an idea that transportation infrastructure is not super successful in the United States. We also live in the 21st century, and none of us thought about the word supply chain before the term supply chain before COVID happened, and then suddenly COVID, we all become experts in supply chain logistics. Anything which improves transportation infrastructure should, improve that as well. We've also got some interesting social arguments here that there's a real income inequality problem, which is particularly acute when it comes to transportation and mobility. That poor people really kind of get trapped. Like if you don't have a car in the West in particular, like you're kind of hosed. And so high-speed travel actually democratizes just sort of life and access for people. Or affordable housing. I mean, if you've spent any time looking for housing options and buying buying a place these days, transportation matters. Like I live in Kansas City. There's just no way to live in Kansas City without a car. We just don't have viable public transit in Johnson County. So like this would democratize affordable housing. This is good for people of low incomes. Also, the questions of highway safety. I mean, we know that even though cars are the way that most Americans get around, it's like the most dangerous way to travel, the most accident-prone way to travel, and high-speed rail could improve that. And I think really the elephant in the room is pollution. Just, I mean, plain old car pollution. Putting trains are just so much more efficient in terms of pollutants and particulates. So we might also say there's a number of advantages here. Like there is successful models working for countries with high-speed rail. China's really the great example of it. That all with the access China has to it, but it's not just China. There are 20 European countries. There's 10 Asian countries. There's 4 high-speed rail lines in the United States right now, 2 of them currently in use and 2 of them under construction onto it. So like there is a successful model. This isn't like an impossible dream. It's only impossible to people like my age who are, my like disposition, who are kind of cynical about everything. It seems impossible. But the truth is that there is working models, even on pretty large scale, that high-speed rail can work. It also, improved transportation and freight for people and goods, lowers the cost of living, and who doesn't that benefit to have a lower cost of living? And of course, high-speed rail definitely would decrease pollution and particulate matter. It's actually a pretty pollution-free way of transportation. So these are all things that an affirmative might say on this topic, and there's other positions as well. In your research, you might find some other things that you find interesting about high-speed rail. But every debate should be balanced, and there should be fair ground on the negative side as well. And I think on this, there are some real things that a negative can say in good conscience on it. First is questions of like solvency. Is high-speed rail actually going to fix the problems they intend to solve? And while transportation is important in access for housing, the reality is that high-speed rail would only alleviate housing problems in some really specific circumstances, because high-speed rail is about distance travel, not local travel. Like it's not a subway system. It's a way for getting across long distances pretty fast. So while it could alleviate housing problems and access, it would be kind of a specific way of doing that, like getting people from one urban core to another urban core. And high-speed rail, while it could alleviate freight, it could like free up other ways of traveling. Freight almost never travels over high-speed rail. Like it could, but that's just not. Freight doesn't travel over high-speed rail. It travels other ways. And then while trains are safer than cars are in terms of like human personal safety, when you're working at 300 miles an hour, derailments and collisions are extremely disastrous. Like they just become huge disasters. And then there's also some real disadvantages here. I think the negative ground has really some great disadvantages to go talk about. User costs are more expensive than air travel. Actually, per mile, air travel is about the cheapest way to travel. It's like 14 cents a mile or something like that. Cars are around 25 cents a mile. High-speed rail pushes that up to, you know, 35 to 38 cents a mile. So actually user costs for like end user is more expensive than air and would require maybe big subsidies from governments to make it stay affordable for people. And construction also has real environmental costs. You know, in some parts of the world, I don't know this would be particularly true in the United States, although it would be an argument to explore. High-speed rail, like literally cutting the corridors or cutting through forests and it resulting in at least local deforestation. And then the trains are made of extractive materials. They're aluminum materials, which on countries where we extract mining from are often pretty vulnerable countries and becomes extractive materials and just literally building the train cars. And if you're trying to build, trying to substantially increase your high-speed rail, that's a substantial increase in extractive relationships with vulnerable countries. And then also like, I mean, eminent domain to make these tracks, you're going to have to go seize some land. Nobody likes land seizures in eminent domain. It's crazy expensive. It's often considered an overreach of government. There's a lot to work with for both the affirmative side and the negative side on this topic, and I think that's what makes it a really interesting topic to debate. Both sides can come into a debate with good faith arguments that like this is a good idea or a bad idea. Yeah, I think there's a lot to work with here. Okay, now let's talk about how you would teach this in the classroom. Like, what's the on the ground approach towards teaching debate? Now, if you're a returning teacher in the game and what you used last year felt successful in your classroom, then absolutely, by all means, I'm a big believer in like I'm a world-class tinkerer. I love to just sit there and fiddle with my classes all the time. Green light, go for it. If you're coming into this like, man, I was never a debater. I just don't know, what to do or what to see about it. Here's what some things I would throw out there. Now, again, this is not prescriptive. What I'm about to say, this is not like this is the way you should run your classes. Because I've never found those successful anyway. But I start with what are known as SPAR debates, which is spontaneous argumentation debates, where I throw out a topic that takes very little research at all. I mean, sometimes there's no research. And again, kids could take both sides in good faith, but it's not necessarily something that a student would believe. And so I like take a classroom and count off in twos, one, twos, one, twos, one, twos. One's you're for the sentence, twos, you're against the sentence, right? And these are just topics like a burrito bar should replace the salad bar in the lunchroom. Or brown sugar cinnamon is the best Pop-Tart. The eighth one up here on the list, resolved. Roblox is a better game than Minecraft. I had this up on my board one day because it was kind of a thing. It was like a spar debate I was practicing out there. And at the time, my fifth grade son walks in the room and he looks at that sentence on the board and he says, Dad, that's just not true. Minecraft is way better than Roblox. It's like, well, okay, but let's say that you had to defend this sentence. What would you say about it? And you just watch his like 10-year-old brain is like processing all of this information at once. He's like, I don't know what you'd say. Minecraft is just better. Everybody knows it's better. And so he kind of got to working through. I'm like, okay, so Roblox has more variability to the game, and you can play different kinds of servers on it, and there's different ways to play Roblox, and there's other games within the game, and Minecraft is a sandbox game, and you can play it this way. And he's like working through the logic on it. And at the end, he still wasn't convinced of the sentence, Roblox is a better game than Minecraft. But that it pushed him to do that was a great example, and this is what I look for spar debates. They're just discussions. Nobody picks a winner and loser on these. It's just about learning how to take a position and defend it against somebody else. So that's kind of where I start with when I'm, starting debate. And then I do some topic teaching. Here you could do some topic teaching and, questions of engineering and economics topics are real natural to this resolution. Your science teachers are going to be all excited because there's questions of like how mining works and how, problem solving and bridge building and infrastructure and kind of the practical side of civil engineering comes. And, that's just fun stuff. Or economics topics. Your social studies teachers will be excited that they get to use some of that econ stuff that they learned in college and otherwise just kind of sat on the shelf for a little bit, right? I'm going to give everybody a topic analysis from the National Speech and Debate Association on it that you can walk through, and they like walk through here kind of some main arguments and some teaching points for you. And some teachers will even just like give this out to their students and they'll read it together in class as a source document. And there's quite a bit on YouTube on this one because high speed rail is just a there's two lines being constructed in the United States right now. There's a lot of just discussions on CBS News on what's going on in the California high-speed rail project. And because it was an academic debate topic, a public forum debate in the fall of 2022, you'll also find a lot of people that filmed their debate rounds and they just put it up there and you can kind of see what a public forum debate round might look like. Now, I'm going to say on this one a little bit of a caution. We used a stripped down model for middle schoolers, and a lot of what you're going to see is, I mean, depending on how you find it, you might find some pretty aggressive 450 words per minute debates that will go way over the head of a 12-year-old. Don't leave your kids in the dust on that. Select your videos carefully if you're going to like show a public forum debate, because a lot of that is not novice friendly on there. But you'll find topic analysis videos where schools and coaches come through and like, okay, we're talking about high-speed rail. Here's some what I think of the app side. Here's what I think of some neg side. And you'll find even professional coaches giving hour-long commentaries. I don't know if I would dump it on my students to go watch an hour-long commentary, but I might watch it and synthesize down what I'm going to take into class with me. But there's quite a bit on YouTube on this topic, and I think you've got a lot to work with onto it. So you start off class with some spar debate, you do some topic teaching, and then when I'm teaching, I go through and do some debate practice, some like actual debate practice. And I don't do this in the first day, but I do it, in the first couple of weeks of my program, where I, as a teacher, I'm going to make a short pro argument. I'm going to read a section of the affirmative speech, one or two pieces of evidence with a claim evidence warrant on it. What the argument I'm trying to prove, the evidence which backs it up, and the explanation for it. And then I say, okay, students, find a piece of evidence that would answer what I've just said. Here's the packet. Here's the files to go through. You put them on your Google Classroom or whatever your learning management software is. Everybody open up their Chromebooks, their iPads, whatever your devices are, and just say, okay, look through these packets and see what you can see on them. Have a student find a piece of evidence. And also walk through what would you do if you didn't have a piece of evidence? What's your plain old analysis? They are allowed in debate. I would caution you, don't try to do debates too early in class. Walk before you run. Don't try to do a full debate too early in class on those. There are some other resources to you as well. The National Speech and Debate Association has some programs that are a specific set of lesson plans called the Start Here. I've given a couple NSDA packets that I'll put in the Google Drive that I'm going to share out, and you're welcome to download them. If you join NSDA, you can get more access to it. But I'll say honestly, National Speech and Debate Association is kind of a mixed bag. They are a membership organization. They do collect dues. They want you to pay dues and pay your upgrades. At the high school level, I'm a member of it. Our students are all members for it. Probably if I was teaching middle school, I would look at a price onto it. But NSDA also doesn't have a real Catholic point of view on stuff. You don't have to engage with the culture or the anti-culture stuff in NSDA, but like I said, if I was in middle school, I would consider it, but it's not a wholesale endorsement. They do have some nice lesson plans on there. They do have great resources, and some of those things I can share, and some of them I can't. Now, I also want to get down to what students, when it gets down to it, what does a student need to debate, but also just in a classroom? Debate is pretty serious. It could deal with some pretty heavy topics. There's some times that it like throws it in your face and people are practicing and it's not always really fun. Give people the space to disagree. I mean, debate is an argumentation game, and the kids that really succeed in it are the ones that want to argue with their teachers. That's part of the gig. But also plenty of snacks and brain breaks. Like when I'm doing in high school level, we have a debate class, like it's a academic part of the day. And then we also do practices after school. During class, it's an academic class, and I don't do anything special. When you have practice after school, You're darn right. I roll in some bags of chips and pop some popcorn and just go be a human being. And it's okay to have fun because debate can also be fun. While it is serious and heavy and deals with income inequality and pollution and all that stuff, you can still have popcorn and tell jokes. Like it is fun. Um, yeah. And I want to say, as a kind of wrap up this session on here, relax. You're probably going to do fine. Like people come into it super nervous about how they're going to be teaching debate. Am I going to give the kids the best chance to succeed? And I don't really know what I'm doing. And like all of the self-doubt and imposter syndrome that all of us deal with in the creative, world of putting yourself out in front of people. Relax. Like this is not actually life and death. Most of what we're doing is creating a space for kids to go try new things and hard things, and we're creating access to things that they're not going to find on their own. They're not going to get to on their own. And I'm honest to say, this also includes teachers. You are also getting a chance to try new and hard things, and you get a little grace in this. Our tournament is only semi-competitive. There's 3 rounds of debate. My goal is to have people excited about debate. Every kid's going to get a ribbon. Every kid's going to get recognized. Everybody's going to come out feeling like they tried something hard. I'm a really good at a kid kind of person, and so like even there's gonna be some kids that don't win any rounds of debate. They're gonna go 0 for 3 and they're gonna walk out. And I still want them to think, hey, you know what? That was hard. I enjoyed it. Like that's my goal. I hope it's your goal. What makes a good debate coach? A good debate coach is when his or her students realize that they are known and loved as precious children of God, regardless of what their round record is, regardless of how much they've enjoyed or hated debate, that they know that they are known and that they know that they are loved. A good debate coach encourages students to think analytically in a way that's fair to multiple points of view. The world doesn't have to agree with you. The world isn't going to agree with you. You still got to treat other people fairly and with dignity. And a good debate coach encourages that. Uh, and if a student thinks they can use their voice in the world, then you've succeeded as a teacher. You've succeeded as a debate coach, regardless of what the record is onto it. That's what makes a good teacher in this program. If a kid feels like he or she has some efficacy and has learned to be louder and stronger in the world that they live in the world that the Lord has made for them. Last thing I'm going to say on here, this is in the document that I put out, the #1 coaches clinic that I shared earlier. I'm going to reshare this document to everybody, but I've given you 3 pieces right away. I hope to add to this. One of them is a topic overview from the National Speech Debate Association. It's a PDF that just kind of goes through briefs explaining the topic, major arguments for, major arguments against, and throws out some evidence for you. Also, a YouTube video from a company called Champion Briefs. They're one of those evidence companies. They do some just topic analyses, and you get a high-level coach walking through, here's what I think a good debater needs to know about this topic. And then there's even another coaching forum called Debater Resources that puts together a set of briefs. All 3 of these topics are in the agenda that I sent out earlier. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to be adding stuff other to it as well. If you haven't gotten it yet, I will share a Dropbox, or not a Dropbox, a Google Drive link that has some of these resources, has some lesson plans, has some things that you can use to share with your students. You can use them internally, and I hope you have a ton of resources to work with. But when it comes down to it, I love this game. I never get tired of talking about it. I love getting other people to love the game, and I want to be your resource for your students to succeed, but also you to succeed. You as the teacher trying something new and hard. Fire away with what other questions you got. I'm a decent emailer. I used to say, you know what, I'm a very good emailer and send me emails. And then, man, I don't know what happened about 2 years ago. I'm just getting destroyed on my inbox. Anyway, that's it. And thank you for watching this. In a moment, I'm going to turn off the recording. I'm going to hang back for any questions you've got. But if you don't have any questions, then you are welcome to go out and glorify the Lord by your life. And thanks.